Good morning. I'm Matt Grubba alongside Matt Sunday here for Morning Java on DKPittsburghSports.com. Brought to you by GetGo Cafe and Market. Know what you can get at GetGo Cafe and Market? Coffee for your morning fix of caffeine, whatever you need. They've got fresh brewed espresso from their Italian espresso machines at all their locations. Of course, that's your morning pick-me-up. They also have, like with so many of their drink options, iced and frozen versions to cool off in the summer.
Yeah, man, I like the iced drinks. It's hot. It's hot. My heart is iced right now because the USA will not be competing this summer in Russia, which I'm sure breaks your heart as well. But good news, we will be able to see the U.S. hopefully compete. Well, they will, of course, but in 2026 in America and in the Americas.
Yeah, that was the big news Wednesday morning that the joint bid of the U.S., Mexico, and Canada won the election to host the 2026 World Cup, beating out Morocco, was the only other bidding nation in Africa, but
and beat them kind of handedly. They knew in advance that they were going to get the votes.
Yeah, and that was that's big even for us in Pittsburgh, where, I think our nearest venues to see some games would be Cincinnati, Toronto, or New York, I think, just looking at the map, or maybe D.C. But it's still, a huge step for U.S. soccer, which is going through some dark times, not being able to, beat the Hondurases and Costa Ricas of the world. Maybe this is the sort of thing that breathe some new life into the program.
Yeah, we could talk about that in a minute, but keep those passports updated because regardless of coming to America, I want to see a USA game in Toronto. So Matt, you brought up kind of inject some energy into the U.S. program here. I just want to throw a couple of names at you here. This brought to you by my buddy Michael Carvelli, huge soccer guy, like the best soccer guy. So let's look at this. Timothy Weah, Christian Pulisic, McKennie, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Miazga, Zach Steffen, former Riverhound for a little bit of time. These guys are all going to be between 25 and 32 in their primes when the U.S. is part of that host trio.
Yeah, well, you mentioned a couple of those names. Obviously, people know the name Christian Pulisic, whose father, Mark, is an assistant coach here with the Riverhounds right now as well. But, he's playing in Germany. Also, Weston McKennie, you mentioned, playing overseas. I think that's the biggest thing for a lot of these young U.S. players is the ones who are getting that overseas experience at 18, 19, 20. They are, I think, getting better trained to deal with the rigors of international competition more so than they would, not to knock college soccer, but the guys who are, spending 4 years playing NCAA soccer and don't really, get that exposure to the pro game, to the international till they're 23, 24. That's going to put those guys for the U.S. a step ahead.
Yeah, and that was part of the Klinsmann push, was getting guys to branch out, take that extra step, go to Europe, even if you fail. I mean, Zach Steffen, he was part of a Bundesliga club before he came back to America, and now he got his first cap with the national team. A lot of these guys, Weston McKennie, I mean, these are going to be names that people see. These guys are playing. They played against France. They draw against France, one of the really World Cup hopefuls.
Yeah, and that's, a change just in the mindset, I think, with U.S. soccer in general. They, so many people, liken it to the path had always been like basketball, like football, high school, college, pro. And you see guys now, I'll throw out another name that is in the youth national program, Andrew Carlton. We saw him here playing for Atlanta's team against the Riverhounds. He's only 15, might be 16 years old now. He forewent, the college path. He's already playing pro soccer, and I think you're going to see more and more of that, and that's what the U.S. is going to need to compete.
Absolutely. Those guys all part of a U.S. under-18 club that competed at the highest level.
Matt, we've been, talking about the U.S. and how it relates to the World Cup, but, there's actually a World Cup starting today. Russia and Saudi Arabia kicking off the whole event in Moscow. It's the biggest sporting event in the world, so what are your thoughts? Who are you looking forward to see? Who do you like?
Man, this is my favorite tournament. It's my favorite sporting event. Just forget about the fact that the USA isn't in it. Everybody needs to watch this. Everybody needs to experience the joy of the World Cup. I like France. I like the speed that they have. Guys like Lamar, and they have the Griezmann. They just have so much talent, and I got to go with my gunner, Olivier Giroud, who, of course, is on the squad. We saw him the other day play against the United States. But I like that squad to make a deep run. I don't know if they're going to win the whole thing, but that's the team that I want to see if Iceland doesn't do it.
It's funny, and you know what? Maybe it just shows how our Riverhounds right here are sort of moving up in the world. You mentioned Thomas Lemar with France, was a former youth teammate of Thomas Venkiaziel on the Hounds now. I mean, the connections, sort of grow with the World Cup. I'm with you. I wrote in our column on the site over the weekend that, France was probably my pick. I also have to, sort of go with the sentiment of Riverhounds player Joe Holland, who said, in a way, he'd kind of like to see Argentina make a run to see Lionel Messi, who, it's 50-50 whether you're in the Messi or Ronaldo camp, who the best player in the world is. But, he said he'd like to see him win one. I sat here earlier this week talking about how, it was cool, even though we played it, Pittsburgh's against him, to see Ovechkin lift the Stanley Cup finally. Seeing a guy like Messi lift the World Cup after so many years of heartbreak, they lost in the final last time out. It would be neat to see them make a run.
It would be fun, but he's not gonna. I don't think he's the Ovechkin type. We're not gonna see the post-winning, Ovechkin like from Lionel Messi. But I don't know, man. I think the Mbappes of the world, France is just gonna outrun those guys and. Forget about Messi, forget about Ronaldo. There's only one Mesut Ozil.
Well, and we talk about all this, yeah. Germany still the defending champ and favorite, so never count them out.
Zidane, the headbutt. Regardless of France losing that World Cup, I'm kind of a closet France fan. I'm not much of an Italy fan, but my parents were in France for that World Cup. They brought me a Thierry Henry jersey, my favorite player of all time. It's the reason I've always liked the Red Bulls. It's the reason I like Arsenal. It's the reason I'm kind of a soccer fan. I loved him in FIFA, but Zidane, the headbutt, that moment in the World Cup, regardless of France losing that game, still my all-time favorite memory of a World Cup game.
Yeah, that was a moment. Actually, that was 2006, and that was the same. If I had to pick my favorite memory, and I got to go with, for those who don't know, Sydney Bourne guy. At the first Australia match, it was the first time they had made the World Cup in 32 years. So, yeah, all you U.S. fans upset about missing once. Other people have it much worse. But first match, Australia falls behind 1-0 against Japan, and then in comes Tim Cahill with 2 goals in the last 10 minutes to go ahead 2-1. They end up winning 3-1 in their first World Cup match in my lifetime, and a lot of people's was just sort of a crazy moment. They end up getting out of the group stage, get knocked out in the round of 16 by Italy on a foul in the box that ended up being a penalty kick in a 1-0 game. But that's it's always those special moments you just think of your country. Do you have a famous U.S. moment? I mean, just when you think of over the last few times.
It's got to be the Donovan equalizer or the goal to go ahead that sent the U.S. into the knockout round. That
was the one against Algeria, right?
Yeah. And I visited Ghana 4 years after that. So I got to be in Ghana during the World Cup when it was being played in South Africa, which Ghana's about as close to New York City as it is to South Africa.
Right.
But the experience of being in an African country where they're playing, and for Ghana to eliminate the United States in back-to-back World Cups like that and kind of play a role in the third. But I think that had to have been my all-time favorite.
Well, I mean, it's going to be a fun month of soccer. Even MLS takes a break during the World Cup, so it's the only soccer going on. Fox is going to be bombarding the airwaves with coverage. So, hopefully you guys are going to be like Matt and I and checking out the action.